Karate friends, welcome to Classics in Color, a weekly dive into some of the ancient world's wackiest facts. I'm Mark Graves, and today, have you ever been kind of tempted by those kind of clickbaity headlines that maybe have something to do with some woman somewhere who gave birth to octuplets, right? It's wild. You kind of want to know what happened. Well, today I have good news for you. That's basically what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about weird births in the ancient world, whether that's multiples or different birth defects. We're going to be looking at a whole long list of stories of this kind of thing. So I'm super excited. Let's get started. All of the stories that we're looking at today come from Phlegon of Trolle. So he was a Greek scholar who served under the Emperor Hadrian, and he wrote this whole book that's usually called Flagon's Marvels or Flagons Wonders. It's just a list of all of the crazy stories that he has heard over the years, and he's compiled into one place where you can just read, I guess, BuzzFeed articles about things. And he has one whole section that is devoted just to strange births. So thank you very much, Flygon. So he basically just gives a long list of all of these stories, and we're just going to go through and talk about some of the highlights. Let me know in the comments. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Do you think any of these have any basis in truth, or are they all just tall tales completely made up out of whole cloth? I don't know what I think about some of them, so I'm interested to hear what you do. We're going to start off with a story about multiples. I think this one is probably the record. So he says that a woman in Alexandria allegedly gave birth to 20 children, but they were in the course of 4 deliveries. So I guess it was like 4 bunches of 5. And he also says that most of them were reared. So that comment at the end there, that most of them were raised, indicates to me that probably some of them were exposed. So exposure or abandonment of infants was a very widespread common practice in the ancient world. You would often leave out kids to either die or be picked up by someone else. And if your family was experiencing economic pressure, if there was a famine or a war or something going on, then the rates of exposure obviously went up. If people don't have the resources to raise their own kids, they won't. So it's interesting that she did keep so many of them out of 20. That's a lot of mouths to feed, but it does seem like she didn't keep all of them. Also, if an infant seemed particularly sickly or unusual, then that infant's chances of being exposed went up quite a bit. So unfortunately, many of the babies on the rest of this list probably did not have very long lives. On that note, let's look at some stories of some infants that were born with an unusual number and or placement of limbs. So first off, we have a quote from Flygon that says, "In Rome, a certain woman brought forth a 2-headed baby, which on the advice of the sacrificing priests was unfortunately cast into the Tiber River." The river is the river that goes right through Rome. And there's another story about a child that was brought to the Emperor Nero, so another Roman baby that apparently had 4 heads and an appropriate number of limbs. So it sounds like kind of 4 babies all mashed together. Next, we have children that were born sort of half human, half some sort of animal. First off, we have the wife of Cornelius Gallicanus gave birth near Rome to a child having the head of Anubis. Interestingly, the Roman historian Livy also mentions a boy that's born with an elephant's head and a pig that is born with a human's head. There are also some stories where women just give birth to straight animals, no human involved. And in that vein, there's one about a highly respected maidservant who apparently brought forth a monkey. One commentary I was looking at said that this might be a baby that was born microcephalic. Not a doctor, I have no idea, but I guess maybe that one is possible, right? There might be like a grain of truth to it. What's interesting about this story is that it might have fed into the common folk wisdom at the time that said that women who are having sex or are pregnant should actively avoid looking at monkeys to try to prevent this sort of thing from happening. Another woman from the town of Tridentum apparently brought forth basically a ball of snakes, like multiple snakes that were all just like curled up into this ball, which is horrifying. Can you imagine giving birth to just a ball of snakes? Finally, the one that I think is the most interesting is basically a Benjamin Button situation, a child born with progeria. So Flygon says that he's aware of a person who in the space of 7 years was a child, a youth, a man, and an old man, and then died, allegedly in the space of that time, having gotten married and begotten children. So there was a 7-year-old dad somewhere out there. So although I did say that many or most children born with these different conditions were probably not kept, they were probably abandoned, this child seems to have, I guess, made the most of his very short life. And some of them did survive because we have another passage from a Greek author, Plutarch, who is chiding or criticizing people who frequently go to what he calls monstrosity markets. So I guess there were these markets where people with these different conditions were. It's unclear if people went to the markets to pay to just look at these people, so a sort of proto-freak show, or if they were on sale there as slaves. It's not clear, but let's look at what Plutarch says. Plutarch chides people who frequent the monstrosities market looking for persons without calves, with short arms, with 3 eyes, with ostrich heads, and in general, for creatures of mixed form and for other oddities. Again, let me know what you think about all of that in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Special thank you, as always, to subscribers and to Patreon members. And I hope to see all of you again next week. Χαίρετε.